Tonight we have 5 volunteers who decided to step up with their true stories, and we'll just jump right into it after we thank SMSU and the English Club for helping us put all of this together. Quick round of applause for both of them. All right, our first presenter tonight is actually a professor here, Dr. Dan Wahl.
Thank you. So, this is called Chicken Coop for the Soul. Yeah, I know. I know. One time I built a chicken coop, more of a art house, really. A place for chickens, but a place to house the soul too, I suppose. My idea was to use only throwaway stuff, only junk. Using reclaimed stuff is kind of this hot thing in the city now, and so this is like extreme reclamation, you know. So the coop had a banister. It had a twisted 2x4s, 3.5 inches on one end, 1 inch on the other. I don't know what these were used for, but I had a lot of those with broken nails sticking out of them, some I pulled out, some I didn't. It had parts of a disassembled piano, violently disassembled. A dead bookshelf. It had an ornate picture frame, kind of gold with some of the stuff crumbling off of it. There was some rusty hinges, some sheets of 4x8 plywood that were crusted over with sheep manure that I pried off the barn floor. Aesthetically pleasing to me, really. And there were $19.27 of new hardware. So, this coop was made of throwaway stuff. It was a place to house chickens, and I was stuck to the aesthetic that Paul Klee claimed for his work. He said, always adapt yourself to the contents of the paint box, and in this case it was the junk pile. The coop had a handy egg nesting box made out of the bookshelf. You could reach in from outside. A door flopped open. You can reach in from the outside and get the eggs. It had a rather magical main door that if you gave it a kick, it would open by itself. That's because the coop leaned to the south. It had an ornate picture frame around a bay window. I liked that because when the chickens stood on their perch inside near the window, it kind of looked like a portrait of chickens. There was a little chicken-sized door that I made out of the music stand from a piano, very, very well-varnished, shiny piano. And when it was up, it closed the house, and when it was down, it became a ramp for the chickens, and they were a little timid about this thing because when they stepped out, they slid down like kids on a slide, and they became very flustered. I'm sure you can imagine flustered chickens. There was even a little deck, 2x2 deck. It was probably the most professional looking part of the coop. All that was needed were a couple of little Adirondack chairs. I liked that coop. It's still there. It's still there. The walls of the coop were painted 3 clashing colors: teal, off-white, and chunky sunshine yellow. Very, very startling, really, at first look, but then you got used to it and you were happy with the coop. I was happy with the coop. the chickens were happy with the coop, and once they moved in, I came across that phrase you may have heard, expect the unexpected. That phrase happened to me. I expected eggs, but relationships, who knew? So I spent time feeding the chickens spent time gathering around my legs, and they would look at me, Maggie especially, would look at me. I didn't know that was her name, but she would give me the chicken eye. And finally, when I started looking at her, I got the connection, and she was saying, my name is Maggie. Look at me, my name is Maggie. I thought, my goodness, you are Maggie. She wasn't a Margaret, really, she wasn't that formal. There was enough girlish curiosity about her to make her a Maggie. Copper was nice. The feathers, just the color of time-burnished copper wire, stripped copper wire, and she had a spark, too. I liked that about Copper. Cooper, her twin sister Cooper, really loved just staying in the bookshelves, nestled up in her little bookshelf nesting box. Maggie, Copper, Cooper, Sarah's chicken. She I don't know if she was shy or what, but she never wanted to tell us her name, so we had to call her Sarah's chicken. What else? There was Maddie, who was truly insane. She liked to... I don't know if that was her real name or not, but, crazy chicken, Maddie, fits. She liked to stand on this old, dead electric fence and sort of wobble there. It was her thing, and I had to rescue her a number of times. She would even stand out there in a downpour, and I kept a little tea towel inside the chicken coop. I would dry her off and tuck her into bed. We lost Lindsay Lohan. She liked to run out at night, party in the woods, and she would come in the morning all bleary-eyed with the chicken equivalent of a hangover. She was the victim of her own lifestyle. Lindsay. So those were our chickens. We loved them, or I did at least. We liked having them around. They gave us eggs. They were friendly. Sarah's chicken especially liked to jump in your lap. She was into that. She liked jumping in your lap. She was a lap chicken. And all the chickens really were quite friendly. They would run across the yard when they saw you, and I don't know if they wanted food or what, but they were happy to see you regardless. And Sarah's chicken would run, jump into your lap, and the rest of them would charge right towards you with, I don't know if chickens can smile, but they looked like they were smiling. Maddie, of course, would be running perpendicular to the pack and sort of angling back to meet the rest. Yeah, they were fun to have around. A fox killed them all. My favorite chicken was Copper. She had these, she looked like she slept in her clothes, really. And she had this kind of rough, raspy voice to match her clothing. She sounded like a punk rocker with a sore throat. She kind of sounded like late Marianne Faithfull. I don't know if you know her. Good singer, different than when she began. I don't know what Copper's original beginnings were, but late. The chickens died one by one. They were plucked from their perch one by one. And I'm sure that the remaining ones, each of the remaining ones heard the tussle, the squawks, the strangled squawkings, and the air punctured by the sudden absence of chicken. And maybe some of them heard the crunching of bones just outside the coop or a few yards along. I tracked the chickens the next morning, tracked the fox by following the dead parts of chickens. Maggie died first. I saw her feathers a couple of yards outside the chicken coop and one reddened foot, which reminded me of the time that my nieces and I did chicken makeovers. We gathered all the chickens. Cora held the chickens, kind of painted their toenails bright red, and we hung chicken bling on them. Had a photo shoot. They came down that music stand, piano music stand ramp runway. We called it the runway. They came out only if we lured them with chicken peels, and we took their pictures. And they seemed okay with that. Copper was the next to die. His feathers lay in a pile a few yards farther west, and a whole wing was in there. And then I think it might have been Cooper, but there wasn't much left. And then the farther along we got away from the chicken coop, the more chicken parts were left. But the last two chickens, there was no hint of their remains. And I figured the fox brought the chickens home to her den for her kids, her cubs, her children. You know, I figured she brought them home to store for her children, to feed her children later. I was a blocked painter. I was stuck as an artist. I couldn't break free out of this deadness inside me, and for some reason, I never predicted this, but for some reason, building the chicken coop out of these mangled, bizarre parts broke me free. It opened me up. It let me become an artist again, and I was so grateful to the junk, and I was so grateful to the chickens, because the chickens played a part in that too. I don't know how. I don't think by dying. I don't think they gave me their souls or anything like that. Nothing mystical, you know. It was just their existence, their way of looking, their way of being chickens, and their way of inhabiting their art house, their chicken coop. I miss them. One time, they were all gathered in the bay window, and the picture. I was outside gardening or some damn thing, and the picture frame window, the ornate picture frame was around the window. I was out gardening, and I looked over at the coop, and they were all gathered in the picture frame window. And I don't know how there wasn't enough room, but somehow they did that. And in fact, Maddie was standing on top of Cooper, and Cooper was kind of rolling her chicken eyes, you know. And something spooked them. They suddenly got spooked, and they all leaped up into the air and fell into the squawking heap. And I remember being so delighted by the sight of chickens suddenly leaving the portrait of themselves. Thanks.
I'm not that tall. There we are. All right. Well, that was excellent. I think everyone agrees. Our next presenter is Crystal Joos. Joos? Got it. Sorry, I messed it up the first time. Who's a third-year student here at SMSU, and she's going to share her story with us. Come on down.
Oh, I am that tall. Wonderful. All right, my story is called Horror Tales of Armstrong 401. It's about my roommate and I. Now, my roommate, who may or may not be in this room right now, has played hockey for probably about 15 years. And once she came to SMSU, started rugby here, and is now the vice president of the rugby team. So living with someone who's been that competitive and that aggressive for that long has been interesting. We had a lot of adventures, and the tale I'm going to tell you about is the way that we deal with watching horror movies and a tale of revenge that follows. So even though she's a pretty strong, aggressive girl, she doesn't really like scary movies. Likes to avoid them. I, on the other hand, love having the crap scared out of me. Don't know why, just do. I thoroughly enjoy it. So I decided that when she was gone for the night, I would watch Paranormal Activity by myself, in our room, in the dark. I don't know if you guys have seen Paranormal Activity, but this was really not the best idea I could have had. It's about ghosts, it's really suspenseful, and does indeed scare the crap out of you. So I'm watching this movie on my laptop, thank you Netflix, and I was sitting with my legs curled up, huddled in myself, and there was a mirror right next to me. I'm sitting in my dorm room all by myself, and I'm just watching it, and I like lean forward into it because it's getting really super intense, and the slight movement in the mirror catches my eye, and I look over. The only thing that's in the mirror is myself, but scared the crap out of me, and I scream super duper loud, really, really loud. So then I'm like, oh, okay, it's just me. It's not a ghost, I'm not about to die, it's cool, I got this, all right. So, calm down, take a few breaths. All right. Now, most people would then maybe, I don't know, get up, take a stretch, a breather, go get a drink of water, turn on the lights, maybe? Yeah, no, I'm not that smart. So after about 5 seconds of, okay, whew, all right, calm down, spacebar, press play, okay, got this. So I'm watching it. Probably about 10 minutes goes by, and it's all right, still a little bit shaky, but it's cool, I'll make it through. And then all of a sudden, this big pounding really hard on our door, and I freak out, even worse than before. And then Amanda comes in laughing because she knew that I was watching this movie and just had to take the opportunity. So, I knew I had to get revenge, but I'm patient. So I waited and waited, just until she was able to kind of calm herself down again. A few weeks later, she asked me, do you want to watch a scary movie? I was shocked, absolutely shocked. I'm like, oh yeah, I do. And she's like, which one do you want to watch? And I was like, okay, let's think. I've got a lot of them, lots of favorites. So I started thinking about it. I'm like, which one? Oh, which one can I get her with? When a Stranger Calls. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen that one, but it's about probably a 17-year-old girl. She goes out into the middle of nowhere. It takes her dad about a half hour to drive her there, so she doesn't have her own car because she's grounded. And she has to babysit these two kids who are sick, so they spend the whole time upstairs sleeping, and she's just in this massive house all by herself at night. And the phone rings. So she answers, and it's just this like heavy breathing, super creepy, really, really creepy. And she's like, okay, hangs up. Happens a couple more times, and then the guy goes, have you checked the children? Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So we're like freaking out, we're like, oh. So she goes up and checks the children, they're fine, like whatever. So after a while, she calls the cops because she's getting freaked out. This guy's stalking her. And they end up tracing the call, and it's coming from inside the house. Really scary. Love this movie. I've seen it a billion times, so I'm like, yes, I have to make her watch this. So we put it in, and again, we're not the smartest people ever. Like, some people would congregate around each other and just kind of like have that presence there to calm you down. No, we had bunk beds, so she sat on the bottom bunk, I was up on the top bunk, turned the lights off, and we watched the movie. I'm like, okay, how can I get her? How can I get her? So I let the entire movie run, all the way past the really creepy scene in the hospital. If you guys have seen it, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, I'm not going to ruin it for you. You have to go out and watch this movie. It's fabulous. So all the way to the end, and I'm like, oh, I got this. Her ringtone is the loudest, most obnoxious thing ever. So I decide that I'm going to call her. Because, you know, when a stranger calls, you call her on the phone, she freaks out, right? Okay. So I wait until the credits, and it gets really dark because credits are a black screen. And I reach over and I dial her number on my phone and I call her. And this just really loud music bursts out of her phone, and she jumps so high it makes the bed move. And of course I can tell because I'm sitting on top of it. Oh, it was so funny. I just started laughing. Oh, it was great. Yeah, but again, hockey player. So when she gets scared or angry, her tendency is to like kick and hit. So it's probably not the best idea to scare her, but again, I'm not the smartest bulb in the bunch, so. But she calmed down a little bit, and I decided to go get some water, which if you've ever lived in a dorm room, they don't have water fountains on every floor. They're on the main floor. We lived in, like I said, Armstrong 401. There's a lot of steps there. It kind of sucks. So I went all the way down to fill up the water bottles. And as I'm coming back up the stairs, in stocking feet, I might add, because why am I going to put on shoes? She can't hear me at all. I come up, and she's standing in front of the doorway, facing inside a dark room, with her back to me. I'm like, what is she doing? Okay, find out she's on the phone. She finally like responds to the person who's on there. I'm like, oh, this is too good. So I walk up really slowly, and I stand right behind her. I don't say a word, and I just stand there and wait. It probably took her about 2 minutes to turn around, but when she did, she freaked out even more than before because she had no idea I had been right behind her. And she starts like kicking at me, trying to stay on the phone with her mom, of all people. That was great. And I just kind of like, quick, just go downstairs. Waited for her to calm down. Oh, good times. So yeah, we don't really deal with scary movies in the best ways, but it gets really fun. And of course, revenge is always best served cold. Thank you.
Alrighty, our next presenter is a second-year student here at SMSU. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause for Nicole Howe.
Wow, there's a lot more people when you're down here and not in one of the rows. Okay, hello everyone. Apparently I'm shorter than Crystal, okay. Hi, my name's Nicole Howe, and when Marianne asked me to do this, I thought to myself, okay, what would be the best story that I could tell everybody? And I thought, well, why don't I tell a story about one of my parents? Most people that know me think, wow, she seems older than 20. She's really handling herself well. She's really mature. And most people think, oh, she grew up on a dairy farm. That's where she gets it from. She's a farm kid. But in actuality, I think it's more my parents and the life lessons they've taught me that really make me the person I am. So this story is called What's in My Bed, and it's the story of one of the lessons that my father taught me. My father is a very interesting person. His nickname is Wild Man Dave to all his friends, and he's very eccentric, and he's, well, it's like you get a 45-year-old man, but inside is a 17-year-old that just wants to have fun all the time and is not very mature. So yes, this is what raised me. So we owned a dairy farm, and one of the things that he used to do was to go to auctions, and one of the time he went to auction was on April Fool's Day. So he always pranks someone on April Fool's Day. It's always memorable. And that year he decided, oh, I should do Nicole. I haven't done Nicole in forever. And he's driving back from, I don't know where. He drove 45 minutes. And he sees something on the side of the road. Now, most people would think, oh, that's gross. I should not touch that. My father is not most people. So what does my father do? He pulls over, looks at it, and goes, perfect. Picks it up, puts it in the back of his truck, and drives home. I'm at home, and I'm weird, and I'm an English major, and I like to sit on my floor in my free time and read. Not sit on my bed, not sit on a couch, on the floor. I don't know why, I'm weird. And so I'm reading away, and I'm going, oh, this is a good book. I don't remember what it was, but it was very good. And I get up to go to the bathroom. My dad comes upstairs with his prank and slips it into my bed and hurries out and into his bedroom. inside his bedroom are my two brothers, because there were two TVs, and my mom was downstairs watching TV, and they didn't want to watch the cooking channel, because that's what mom watches. They wanted to watch ridiculousness or whatever the heck they watch. And so they were in my parents' room where the other TV was. And they're sitting there, and Dad's let them know what's going on. So they're sitting there, and they're trying very, very hard not to make a sound or laugh, because if they laugh, I will know, and then they won't get to play the prank. So they're just waiting. Gotta keep quiet. I come back from the bathroom, go into the room, and they wait. And wait. 5 minutes pass. 10 minutes pass. 15 minutes, and they're still waiting. Why hasn't she found it yet? I'm not the most observant person, so I didn't see right away what was going on. So about 20 minutes pass, and I decide, oh, I need to go get a drink. So I go downstairs, and I come back, and I'm walking into my bedroom, and I notice something is different. One, my bed is made, which does not happen very often, I'll be completely honest with you. And two, there's a giant bulge underneath it. So I'm thinking, oh, it's one of my two younger dirt brothers. And I need to pound them. That was my thinking. My brothers are not perverts, they're not in there to see me naked or something. For context, we had this game going on, right? My parents were terrible at hiding the Christmas gifts, so we'd find them. So eventually my mom decided, you know what? One of you each year gets to hide the Christmas presents, and either the other two kids find them or they don't. And whoever wins the game gets an extra present, so we're all like, oh, heck yeah. Sibling rivalry, yes. So I'm going in, and I pull back the covers, and I'm about ready to pound whatever the heck is in my bed. And I look down, and it is not my brother. There in my bed, now thawed and leaking, dressed in a hoodie with the hood up, sunglasses and positioned so it's smiling at me when I pull back the covers, is a dead coyote. Well, I did what any 13-year-old girl did, and I went and screamed. My dad and my brothers burst out laughing, because this is where you laugh, and she finally found it. Oh my gosh, it took her forever. My mom is downstairs, she hears me, and she comes up the stairs in full mama bear mode, cell phone in one hand and kitchen knife in the other, going, what is happening to my child? Comes up and she looks at it and she goes, oh, Dave, you're cleaning that up, right? No, you do laundry. Yeah, there's that dynamic in my family, yay. So yes, that happened. So, this is just one instance of me growing up. You can understand how I matured. So, the lesson of the story, I guess, is, well, stuff happens. And you just have to deal with it, whether it's a car accident that leaves you paralyzed, or you get fired and you have to pay the bills, or your father takes roadkill and puts it in where you sleep. You just gotta roll with the punches and learn to laugh at it. And considering what I did for revenge, I laughed pretty darn hard. Oh, that's another story for another time, don't worry. But it also involved roadkill in something that he drives. And it smelled really bad. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause for our next presenter, Mr. Benjamin Fick.
Okay, so this story is called Close Enough for Government Work. It is the story of my first wild leap into the great unknown, and by that I mean my first summer job, my first real summer job. Prior to this, I had always been working on my dad's farm as doing whatever, and I learned a lot of good things, a lot of great things, really, working on the farm, and I was very grateful for that, but I wanted one summer to do something a little different and maybe get a little income from somewhere besides my parents. And at this point in my life, I had been going to school for engineering, and I came home on spring break and I saw in our local paper that there was a opening at our highway department for what was called an engineering intern. And this sounded almost a little prestigious, and I signed up for it because the qualifications was to have 1 year of engineering education or more. And I don't know, I must have been the only one who signed up because I got a call in my first week of finals, and they said, well, you got the job, do you want to come down to the courthouse and sign all these forms? And I said, well, yeah, I'll do that when I get home. And I was very, very happy about this. I was also apprehensive. I had really no idea what I would be doing. Besides the qualifications, the rest of the job description had been pretty vague. I got in on my first day and they said, hey, welcome to your job. We're going to have you doing load count. And that's very vague wording. And I said, well, what's load count? And they said, well, we're not going to tell you what it is, we're going to show you. And they take me out to where they're building a railroad bridge. They're bringing in dirt to build up the grade to make this railroad bridge. And it's my job to sit in the pickup truck and count every single truckload of dirt that comes in for every day that they do this work. Yes, it is exactly as mind-numbing as it sounds. My job was to sit in a pickup truck. I'd come in about 6:30 in the morning, and I'd get done about 6:30 at night. 12 hours every day, sitting in a pickup truck, making marks on a sheet of paper for truckloads of dirt. I was getting a little tempered as to what this really had to do with any engineering experience, but I was committed. I was going to see it through, and I got done with this first job, and they said, well, good work with that. How many loads did you get? And I said, well, this many. And they said, oh, that's exactly what we wanted you to do. And I thought, well, that's good, but I don't like the way you said, oh. After this job was done, they put me on a second job, and they called it GPS road sign mapping. That's a lot less vague, and it was exactly what it sounded like. It involved me in another truck driving up and down every single county highway in our county, and I would mark every single sign on those highways in a GPS and then put that location into a laptop. And I got done. Well, I didn't get done. I got finished that first week, and they asked me, well, how far did you get? And I said, oh, I did the first 3 highways. And they said, Jesus Christ, that's long. And here is where I found out the biggest difference between my previous experience in farm work and what I was doing now, government work. See, the thing with farm work is that when you do it, you complete every job, and then once you're done with one job, you move on to the next, and the next, and the next, and you complete everything, and then you get done whenever you get done, as my father would say. But with government work, since you're being paid by the hour, it's in the worker's best interest to do everything as slowly as possible. Those first 3 highways were about 25 miles each. I was expected to do about 50 miles a week, not 75. And so, and they said, well, you don't need to be going that quickly. And I said, I can't go any slower than I am. That's just how it is with me. The only thing that's actually limiting me is how slow this truck that you gave me goes. That is the limiting factor here. Because this is a very old truck, had a top speed of about 60 miles an hour going downhill. But, and when I had finally finished with that GPS job, this took me about 2 months instead of the 3 months they had planned for me. I had an entire month left, and so they put me on all sorts of other odd jobs, which I did not appreciate as much as I had done with this second job, with the GPS road sign mapping, because at least with that, I could feel like I was making a difference, and they did tell me I was making a difference. But I had been thinking this entire summer, I had been contemplating maybe not going back and finishing my engineering education. And this, in some ways, was sort of the tipping point to me saying, no, I want to do something else. Because I had gone out for engineering, and I had been pretty good at it. I hadn't failed any classes, and I had done pretty well actually learning the material, and I felt confident about that. But then I got onto this job. I was getting some actual work experience. Even if it was an internship, I was still paid. And I was just thinking, is this what I'm going to be doing as an engineer? Is this what they would have me be doing for the rest of my career? And the answer is no, probably not. This is only a summer thing. But still, it just really stuck with me for the longest time. And I had been entertaining other options, and as I said, this was the tipping point to me thinking I should do something else that I am interested in, and that happened to be English. I had a very good English professor at my previous school, and he sort of steered me into something in the English field as well. And I let my supervisors know that I probably wouldn't be coming back, and they handled it about as well as I could have expected, because what I was actually telling them was, not only would I not want to come back next year, but you have turned me off to this entire career path for the rest of my life. So, considering that they didn't explode or fire me right there, I think they handled it pretty well in a very mature fashion. And I don't want anyone to think that my entire experience was overwhelmingly negative. I did learn a lot of things. I learned how to pace myself, as they put it. I learned how to occasionally work with people who, honestly, I couldn't stand, which is always a valuable skill. And I just got some actual world experience. And to say that I took my first leap out into the great unknown, and I didn't exactly land on my feet, but I did manage to roll with it, and I did manage to learn a few things on the way. And what I'm really sort of getting at is that not every negative experience a person has is completely negative. You can always stand to learn something, and I really feel that my experience there really helped shape me into what I do now. It steered me towards a different path, yes, but it actually did teach me a few things along the way. Thank you. And our final speaker will be Mike McGovern. He is what are you, a senior? Okay, good, I didn't mess that up. A round for him, I suppose.
Yeah, that'll work. All right, so my story also is about a job that I used to have, but it also involves what some people said to me while I was at this job, which might not be appropriate for smaller ears. So, we all right? Okay, making sure. All right, I just wanted to make sure because I don't want to start corrupting the youth quite that early. All right, so I got my first job ever when I was 13 years old, working full-time for my uncle's construction company, and ever since then I've worked more days than not. So when I first came to SMSU as an 18-year-old, I took about 2 weeks for me to start going stir crazy up in my dorm room, not used to not having my own money and my own freedom to go around and really, have cash in my pocket. I like the feeling of that. So I looked around for a job, and right across the street at the time was the local Pizza Hut, which is now closed for reasons that are really obvious to me. But so I go in and apply, go through all of their training, and my first real day of work And training should be in massive quotation marks there, by the way. They sit you down, they make you watch like 2 videos from the 70s with people with, men with perms wearing Pizza Hut caps, like pausing while they're driving around to like pull out the old Macmillan map that stretches more than the car. So it's my first day actually delivering pizzas, and I was all nervous and excited and ready. And I was like, all right, we're gonna make some money finally. And my first delivery that I ever had was to the local American Inn here. I knock on the door, and I hear, oh yeah, one second, and I'm like, all right, cool. And then all of a sudden I hear 3 different voices go, no, you have to answer the door like that. That was the deal. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so the door opens up, and I can see inside the whole room. It's something I got used to while I was working there. So you get these weird 30-second snapshots of all these different places. And so the woman who answered the door was in her mid to late 20s, blonde hair, naked from the waist up. Me in the room, sitting at a card table playing, I'm assuming a game of strip poker, was 4 other people in various stages of undress. The woman kindly paid me, left me like a $6 tip on like a $20 tab, which is always nice. Laughs and closes the door. So I get back, and I'm still a little shell-shocked from this. And right then they're changing over managers. It was a shift change, but I'd be working till midnight or 1 a.m. So the new manager's name was Kyle, and I hadn't worked with Kyle yet. And right before he clocks in, he goes, oh yeah, 1 second, I gotta run to the liquor store. Anyone need anything? I'm like, no, I only made $6. He's like, and I'm 18. And he's like, oh, well, don't worry about either of those things. I could spot you until, you make some more cash. And I was like, nah, I'm good. Spotting cash was how Kyle made most of his money, since he didn't have a car to drive. He'd loan you money, loan you $6, and he'd pay him like 10 at the end of the night. So I start delivering pizzas, and the night's going pretty well, making some cash. But every time I come back, Kyle would be waiting with a big grin at the door with 2 of the cups they used for marinara sauce filled with black velvet whiskey, and be like, here, take one of these. And I'm like, and the first time, yeah, sure, 18-year-old kid, why not? And so then the second time, no, I probably shouldn't, I gotta drive. Well, it's just one. And it's like, yeah, but it's just one, and then it's just one, and then it's just one. And so finally, it's toward the end of the night. Don't worry, I wasn't that drunk by this point. And it's the last delivery of the night. It started raining. It's that ice-cold Minnesota November rain. And it's to an apartment building I hadn't been to before. It's somewhere down on South 5th, I believe. And so I walk in, and the place is pretty beat up. Holes in the carpet, big rips, holes that would look like they've been punched in the drywall. So it was a little sketched out. And so I'm looking at the door numbers. I'm looking for apartment 4. And I'm like, can't be that hard to figure out because I can count, thanks to my great Minnesota education. And I see that all the doors on this first floor here are starting at 5, so I'm like, all right, cool. I go downstairs, which is something out of one of Crystal's movies. It's cement walls, cement floors. It's dripping water is leaking in from outside. It's all lit by stationary hanging light bulbs. And I go up, and I'm like, okay, there's number 1. I'm guessing that's number 2 with the plywood over it. So next door down must be 4. All right, so I pound on the door. No answer. No answer. No answer. And now I'm starting to get a little creeped out because this looks like, if I knock one more time, the dude with the chainsaw is definitely coming. And so I pull out my phone and I give the number of the thing a call. And the most grating voice answers the phone. You're in the wrong spot, aren't you? You're downstairs in the basement. I'm like, yeah, there's a door here that... No, that's the wrong fucking door. You gotta come up to the 2nd floor. Yes, ma'am, I'll be right upstairs. I just got this job. I wasn't ready for that. So I go upstairs, and I was just like, okay, this is weird. But sure enough, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 up on the second floor because builders have all the sense in the world. And so I knock on the door, and no answer. I'm like, okay, this building does not have 3 doors labeled number 4. This has to be it. Knock on the door again, no answer. Pound on it as hard as I can, you know, boom, boom, boom. No answer, call her again. You're still at the wrong fucking door, aren't you? Well, I don't think so. It says number 4 right here. I'm on the second floor. No, it's not. I can't hear shit. But I can hear her music and her swearing at me through the door. And so I go, ma'am, I'm pretty sure I hear you on the other side of this door. If you just open the door, I'm right here. You know, I hear the music going. Here, if you just turn it down, that's me. And she goes, 1 minute. Opens the door, a crack, a tiny crack, like just enough to get an eyeball out. And then sees it's me, swings the door open. What'd you knock like a fucking cop for? Sorry, I didn't realize that's what I was doing. Well, Johnny's got the money, but he's also got a warrant. He jumped out the window. I'll give him a call. Slams the door. So I'm sitting there stunned. This woman couldn't have stunned me more if she just punched me in the face, which I wouldn't put it past her. And so another couple of minutes goes by. I knock on the door again. What? Well, I was just wondering do you guys want this piece? I can't stand here all night. You know, it's now 1:30 in the morning. I want to go home. Go outside and wait for him. Oh, okay. Go outside, standing next to my car in the freezing Minnesota rain. About 15 minutes later, I say, screw this, going home. Get in the car, go back, tell Kyle, the dude never showed up. He goes, oh, well, that's funny because they just called, want you to run it back out. And I'm like, no. And he's like, yeah, well, that's the job. You got to do it. But here, you know, have another shot before you go. Turn down that shot, get in the car, go back out there. The guy's like, yeah, I'm sorry. Ma's a little crazy. And I was like, she's a little crazy. You jumped out the window. And he's like, no, we got a ladder. It's cool. And I was like, just very glib. And I was like, all right. So give him the pizza, he gives me the money, stiffs me on the tip. So I get back, and he's like, and I'm talking to Kyle, and he's like, oh, you shouldn't have left. You should have just stayed there. You wasted gas and time and all this nonsense. And I was like, well, you know, he wasn't coming. It'd been 20 minutes. And he's like, no, you got to stay until that thing's delivered. And I was like, all right, whatever, dude. You know, half drunk, 18 years old, full of just screw everybody. And I'm like, fuck this job. I'm never coming back. This is my first day, last day. How about that? And then I wound up working there for 6 more years. Thank you. I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank SMSU and the English Club again for helping us set all of this stuff up. There's been a number of outside-the-box events they've let us put on this semester. So let's give a round of applause to them one more time. I'd also like to take this opportunity just to promote Perceptions, which is the school literary magazine. The stories you've heard tonight would be excellent examples of things that you might want to submit. We do have a creative nonfiction section. If you're sitting in the audience and you have any short stories, poems, short plays, small graphic novels, pictures, drawings, poetry, we take just about anything you can send us. Please send all submissions to perceptions@smsu.edu, and thank you guys once again for coming out.